Hey, what's happening, guys? Dan Darrow here with another Options and Play video update. This week is the main event, no doubt about it. A huge week, actually a massive week. Just absolutely packed every single day. Big names. It's going to be wild, so buckle up. Um, as is typically the case, though, Monday morning starts quieter. It's really nothing of interest. However, Monday after the close, when things really get going, Facebook about 22 points. So this just got a lot more interesting after the snap miss. Um, I mean, it was already lagging the other big names, and now it's going to be, like now it's going to have more concerns because of Snap's surprising miss. It does seem more skewed to the bull side after the drop because the bar appears to be lower. It's just in my opinion. But I also wouldn't say there's no downside if they disappoint because I mean, it's one thing we know. It's that when these momentum stocks or growth stocks start to slow, they can go pull back a lot further than you expect. My gut is saying bullish, but higher risk. I think the only way I'd approach is with lower debit strategies that are slightly further out of the money in case there's a sharp snapback move. Before the open on Tuesday, so a couple, actually pretty big industrial morning. So 3M, which is priced in about 6 points. Yeah, of the industrials that day, I mean this is probably not my favorite setup. It has occasionally had some big moves around earnings, but lately it's been a little bit less so. So I think I'm gonna leave it alone. GE, this one seems interesting to me. I mean, you can see by the chart just a super tight range. The pricing about 5.5 points. It's held in a lot better than other industrials, and that range to me seems like it could lead to an explosive move on a resolution. So it does seem like there's a pretty good setup for a volatility strategy. UPS, um, like I am really surprised at how far this has bounced and how sharp of a rally it's had into earnings because, I mean, it's coming off its own weak quarter in July. FedEx just got crushed on its own report. So, I mean, this is definitely a big quarter, and it's surprising to see how strong it is. You know, I mean, now it's basically half like the gap from July. So it'll be interesting. I don't know if I'm going to play it. FedEx could be a decent sympathy play on it too, though, because I mean those two tend to move together. Excuse me. After the close on Tuesday, so AMD. Let me release. AMD is pricing in about 8 points. Sell Intel, buy AMD. I mean, like that's been the narrative that's worked the past few quarters. But now AMD it's up quite a bit going into its own earnings release. So um, I feel like the bar is probably pretty high. Plus, it hasn't really had huge gaps on its own earnings reports lately. I mean, a lot of times, like even like last quarter when it had this huge move, it actually didn't gap that much, giving an opportunity to get involved right after it. So, I think that's probably how I'm going to look at this. Like, maybe not take options into earnings, but then look for like a quick swing trade opportunity after because it has had some really extended. So this was after the April quarter, right? Extended drop. This was after the July August quarter extended rally. So don't always need to take the risk into it because sometimes it gives trades after. Google, about 128 points is what's priced in. Facebook's report's definitely going to set the tone for Google. If Facebook trades lower, Google probably trades lower. If Facebook pops, then Google probably pops. So I mean, it's going to see. We're really going to have to see where this is trading after Facebook. But if it does get hit off of Facebook, maybe that'll set up a chance for it to like recover on its own report because it doesn't always trade exactly the same with Facebook, and it's been pretty consistent lately too. So I think a little bit more bullish biased on Google. Microsoft, another huge name, about 9 points of what's priced in. It's been a solid beat and raise machine, but the stock just doesn't typically react great to reports. So after the recent run, it feels like it might be more in like that sell the news camp again. So I'm probably going to hold off here too. Robinhood, about 375 is what's priced in. The first report as a public company wasn't great. They had some cautious comments about trading revenues at the time too, so it's kind of a tough call here. Stock has been in a pretty tight range, and it's at a kind of like a make or break spot on the chart too. So maybe it's due for a move either way. It might be something to look at for a volatility strategy. And then Twitter, it's priced in about 7. Definitely going to react to Facebook as well. but Facebook and Twitter are not the same company, obviously. So this could, even if it moves on Facebook, it could still move on its own. It's typically pretty volatile around earnings too. Um, so we'll see how Facebook goes, see what Twitter is, and maybe this will be a game time decision for me. Wednesday before the open, Boeing. So not the best looking chart. It's priced in about 9.5 points. It's been kind of a tough trading name for a while, and there's just really nothing that stands out to me. So I think I'm just going to leave it alone. GM. So it's priced in about 3 points. So this and Ford both report next week. Just had a really nice move off its investor day. It's been acting better. Seems to be some momentum building. The chart looks solid. This and Ford have been acting great. So definitely more like swing trade ideas for me. Mickey D's pricing in 675-ish. Brinkers, tickers Eat, had a prominent warning this past week, so we're going to see what McDonald's has to say about rising food costs and inflation. Hasn't been a big move on earnings in a while though, so it would probably be like a day after focus, not something I take options into the print on. Spotify pricing in about 18 points. It's consistently been hit on earnings several quarters in a row, so hard to go against the trend, especially with the stock ticking up recently into the print. So I might actually look at a speculative bearish trade on this one. After the close on Wednesday, eBay. So pricing about 4.5. It's definitely survived a lot of the recent e-commerce carnage. And I mean, it's breaking out to a high today with a lot of the stocks down. So really unusual action there. I don't know if I'm going to trade this, but I mean, at 4.5 points after the way it's been moving, I mean, maybe there leaves some money on. Maybe the options leave a little room. It's not something I trade very often, so I'm kind of on the fence with it. But it is kind of intriguing, especially with all this recent relative strength. So Ford, it's priced in about 90 cents. I mean, this is what I was talking about. Acts great. Definitely more of like a swing trade type focus for me, though. Stock has had a great run, and it seems like there's more potential over a longer time frame. NOW, so about 38 points is what's priced in. Top software name, acts great. They're running into earnings, though, so, I mean, if the stock is ramping pretty hard into earnings, typically those are what I avoid. The stock has rallied pretty sharply into earnings, so it's probably going to be a void. But, I mean, swing trade-wise, there's usually some nice opportunities with this one. So I'll be keeping an eye on it after the earnings release comes out. Teladoc. So, broken name. Still underneath some big levels of resistance. They're pricing about 9.5 points. It did have a huge comeback after opening red last quarter. But, I mean, it still hasn't even gotten back to where it was that day. So it's got work to do. It doesn't move as much as it once did, but this setup might not be bad for a volatility strategy because it does seem like there could be room in either direction. And then, so Twilio, another big one on Wednesday. Pricing about 27 points. Definitely only like a speculative trade for me, but I was thinking if it can get through 400 and you get a pent-up breakout through 400, you might see a pretty sizable move to the upside. But it did sell off on a decent quarter in July, so this is definitely more speculative. Before the open on Thursday, CAT pricing about 8.5 points. Last quarter's guidance wasn't good. Industrials have had some issues this quarter, so I'm kind of curious to see how CAT does. Technically, it's not as interesting as other industrials right now, though, so more of a wait-and-see setup for me. Merck. So one of the few pharma names that interest me right now, because a lot of them don't act great, but Merck does. It's been in play for a couple of recent data releases. It's at the top of its monthly range. Not sure if earnings are going to move the needle a lot, but if they're decent and it can maintain some momentum, it does seem like there's room higher. Plus, I think there's still some news left coming out this year, data-wise. So it's more of like maybe not necessarily an earnings play, but something I'll definitely be watching. Shopify. So another top-tier software name. It was rallying into earnings today. It pulled back. It's pricing in about anywhere from like 95 to 97 points. Does like to run ahead of earnings. So we'll see with earnings after on Wednesday after the close. I mean, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll see how it acts. Or sorry, Thursday before the open. We'll see how it acts the first 3 days. If it's up sharply over the next 3 days, probably will be a little bit less eventful. But if it stays down here, or even continues to more to the downside, maybe it sets up like a speculative bullish trade idea. After the close on Thursday, some big names, big names. Amazon is pricing in about 100, 148, 150, somewhere around there. Last quarter's guidance stunk. Now this quarter is going to be even more important because they're going to be guiding for the holiday season. Technically, it seems like it could be set up pretty well for a volatility strategy. I mean, there's room to the upside, there's an unfilled gap, there's room to the downside, 3,200, right? So it seems like it's set up well to move, and it could be either way. I mean, last quarter wasn't good, so um, yeah. I mean, I feel like you're gonna have to pay up for options, but I mean, it does seem like it could be one where it could be a pretty sizable mover in either direction. Apple pricing in about 5 points. Recent earnings have been a little bit less eventful. Stock keeps working post earnings though, so I think the plan will be, wait out earnings, see where it is after, and then look for a trade setup because there's been a lot of really great opportunities on Apple after its earnings releases without having to take the earnings risk. But sometimes, I talk about some of the VTF, but sometimes it's just best to keep things simple with the mega caps because they tend to follow these similar trends quarter after quarter. Team, so about 35 points, what's priced in. It was up huge last quarter. It's continued to act great. I mean, gotta assume there's going to be some follow through after last quarter because it was such a strong number. Um, but I mean, definitely tough to see a move of that magnitude again. So um, probably going to be an avoid for earnings, but might be something that could ramp ahead of earnings. So wouldn't surprise me to see this trade up a bit before its earnings release on Thursday. And then lastly, on Thursday, Starbucks. So pricing in about 4.25. We'll see what McDonald's has to say because I think that's going to impact Starbucks. But there's definitely been some issues popping up with the restaurant stocks, and Starbucks does look susceptible to me below 110. So might be more of a game time decision. And then Friday before the open, so CCJ, which is more of a momentum play. I'm not sure it's necessarily going to be an earnings story, but the pricing about 2 points. Uranium name. These stocks have been crazy lately. Still has some momentum, and if it can hold after earnings, maybe see like another leg up. And then Chevron and Exxon. I mean, I'm only pointing them out. I'm not going to be involved in. So Chevron and Exxon both report also. I mean, Chevron right at the top of its year-to-date range. Exxon is not too far off. I mean, I've missed the boat on energy. Didn't really participate on the way up, and I mean, I'm not dying to be involved for earnings right now. But I mean, two big energy reports, and maybe sets the sector in motion later in the week. So maybe XLE could be like a way to approach it if you didn't have like an opinion on one or the other. And that's it. So as you can see, a ton of big names, just absolutely packed. I mean, there's so many more that I didn't even talk about. I mean, these are just some of the big ones and some of the ones that I have on my watch list, but so many more companies reporting. So just, rest up, relax this weekend because it's going to be a crazy week coming up, all right? So if you like this video and you're looking for more information about trading earnings with options, please follow up with the link in the description of the video for more information on options and play. Have a great night. Have a great weekend. Stay well, and I will talk to you on Monday.